Hey everybody, welcome back to This Dude Started Something and Happy New Year. Today we're joined by Dan O'Toole, founder and CEO of ARAI AI, a company that's completely rethinking how packages get delivered.
Instead of just drones or delivery robots, Arrive AI builds the smart endpoints called Arrive Points that actually receive the packages safely, whether they come from a human, a robot, or a drone.
Dan has been building and scaling companies for decades. Today, we're excited to dig into how his team is making deliveries smarter, safer, and way more efficient.
I've been following Dan's journey since the early days when Arrive AI was still drone deck, so it's great to finally sit down with him. Dan, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Oliver and Braden. But you guys, when you say decades, come on, man, I'm not that old.
Yeah, no, that probably makes it sound bad, but
No, that's
I'm just
cool.
trying to say you're very
I'm-
experienced.
Yeah, cool. No, thanks for having me. Thanks for the OG call out for Drone Deck. If you see behind me, one time a few years ago, the Nasdaq called me up and said, "Hey, we're always looking for the next big thing, and we think what you guys are doing is that. We know you
Wow.
have a choice when you go public. We hope it'll be the Nasdaq." And they said, "Hey, if you want us to do a shout out to Drone Deck on the Nasdaq Tower, we'd be happy to do that." And that's something they never do for a private company.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty cool. So thanks for
Wow.
bringing up Drone Deck. That's where it all started.
Of course. Yeah, that's sick.
That was really
And
cool.
you went public like I think May, right? It's pretty recent.
Yeah, May 15th of this year.
Yeah, wow.
I can
That's
still
awesome.
say that because today's the end of the year. So we're getting,
Last day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Podcast on New Year's Eve. Yeah.
What made you officially choose to just go for it and go public?
To me, the promise of investing in any company is always liquidity. We came through crowdfunding. We had 3 successive crowdfunding rounds, and to me, you could go from zero to $2 billion as a crowdfunded company. But if your shareholders can never monetize that, it's not worth anything, right? So
Yeah.
for me, two things. One is getting our shareholders to liquidity. That was number one. Number two, accessing the capital markets for the needs that we have as a company. We've got a big lift. We're changing the world, and you can't. It's a grind when you're crowdfunding. We raised 15 million in the last 4 years before going public crowdfunding, which is really huge, but it's really not. 15 million isn't what it used to be.
Yeah. So
So
true.
so you got to go bigger places.
Yeah. So for our viewers out there, because our intro didn't really do it justice, give us kind of a summary, if you will, of Arrive AI, and then also a big picture look at where you plan to be.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Arrive AI, Arrive AI, ticker symbol ARAI. I always want to get that out there. Think of us in really simple terms as mailbox 2.0. You've got all this new autonomous delivery getting ready to happen, which includes drones, robots, unmanned vehicles, as well as U.S. mail and conventional delivery. But we're uplifting this new paradigm called asynchronous delivery. And what that means is everything can deliver and pick up on its own cadence. You guys are in college. I don't know if you have Starship robots on your campuses or not, but if a Starship is bringing you your Starbucks, right now that's a synchronous delivery. You have to be there to meet the robot. The robot
Okay.
has to be there to meet you, or somebody's waiting. With an unlock point in the ecosystem, we're unlocking what we believe is the last 50% of the value chain, because everything can come and go on its own cadence, and no mode of transportation or people are waiting for something to happen. Everything gets to move in its own motion and not be held up. We think that we're in a winner take all market. We beat Amazon by 4 days on our first patent. And we think that we are going to be essentially the Tesla supercharger network of autonomous delivery. Everybody started out with their own end-to-end solution, GM, Ford, Tesla, and it all standardized on Tesla. There's not going to be 3 arrive points in front of a home or business. It's going to be, a Google, Amazon, US Mail. It's going to be one arrive point that accommodates everything, and that's us.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great summary. Do you also imagine residential mailboxes will move to Arrive AI?
We do. We've got configuration and vision for every scenario you can imagine. We could be on a tank in the battlefield. It could be on a boat, camper, RV, a commercial vehicle, a balcony in New York on a high rise, a roof hatch in a commercial building or a home, a vault in the ground. It could be anywhere that you want to be.
Wow.
That's insane. I mean, it's they need somewhere to put the packages. Like I've seen deliveries of drones dropping packages in people's backyards, and it just seems so like unfinished, right? Like you guys are the final step to it,
Yeah.
to creating the is autonomous the right word?
Yeah, autonomous delivery. Yeah, we don't think it's scalable when every delivered item lands on the ground or every picked up item emanates from the ground. That's
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
scalable. There's too many flaws in that, right? You need
yeah,
a safe, secure. So if you're going to
Mhm.
reinvent the mailbox, throw the kitchen sink at it, notifications, video, heated and cooled cargo areas, emergency light feature, reverse logistics. I mean, we've got 200 patent claims that we've either filed for or have already been awarded. So it's gonna be a
Wow.
big thing. It's like the cell phone basically. So you're gonna love it.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
crazy.
That's insane. I mean, you're taking away the competition because, if you just develop the first step to it, then somebody else comes along and creates the heated one or whatever. It's like you guys are trying to get as many as you can to like just further yourselves as the giant. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's our patent. Those are our patents. So you don't see anybody else doing it because we own that exclusivity through our granted patents. We beat Amazon by 4 days on our first patent. We're cutting to the front of the line on retail. What if all your commerce goes through your Arrive app and you're able to order things, you're able to return them and all that? What's the value of that?
Yeah. Yeah, could we talk about that Amazon patent? What exactly does that entail?
Yeah.
And
So
also, why was Amazon going for it? And how'd you beat them? It's crazy to, like, it's like David and Goliath almost.
it is. I call us a we the people story. We had 5,000 pre-public investors that all saw the same vision that I did, and they invested
Wow.
in this company. And when you beat Amazon to a patent they want, that's a good thing, right? So,
Yeah.
and we say that boldly because it's true. It's documented, and we're poking the bear a little bit, but we could do it because it's the reality. But the patent is, if you look out at the bless you, man. If you look at the market, you've got locker boxes, mailboxes, all the dumb lockers, things like that. But when you add the element of autonomous delivery and pickup to it, where robots, drones, unmanned vehicles, all those jump in, that's where we come in, and that's why you don't see anybody else doing what we're doing because that's our moat. So that's what we're really executing on, and then reverse logistics, and I
Mhm.
call it a shipping store at your door. What if you could do all your commerce right from your house? You don't have to go to Whole Foods to bring something back or Kohl's or the UPS store. You can do it right at your curbside. What's the value of that, right?
Yeah, and, like, kind of piggybacking off that, you guys have heating and cooled options, which many people weren't even thinking of for mailboxes. It just kind of like this spot in the summer where, okay, it's like scalding hot in there, or in the winter, it's freezing cold. But you guys have the power to make it heated or cooled, which, like, for groceries and or medicine, things like that, that's a game changer.
Yeah, it is. We're opening up delivery of all these new things based on that. Exactly. You're exactly right. So uh, it's just one of the major elements that we have in our favor, and we just think the market is accelerating around
Yeah.
us, and we're right there taking advantage of it. It's exciting.
Plus, you don't have to be at war with the companies trying to make it big in the actual delivery space. You're more of the infrastructure behind it. And I'm really interested because something I didn't understand was, how do you manage the partnerships of the actual couriers or drones that are being used? That's not you guys, is it?
No, we're not the drone. In fact, when we started out with the name Drone Deck, that was,
Hmm.
people say, "How many drones do you guys have?" And I say, "Hey, we're not the drone, we're the Drone Deck." Or, what
Mhm.
if your drones fly in snow or whatever? I say, "Well, we're not the drone, we're the Drone Deck."
Yeah.
So eventually, it became evident. In my COO, Mark Ham, I always give him credit when I tell this story. He had the idea for the name Arrive, and I added the AI to it. Arrive AI because we're an AI first company. But really glad that we changed the name. It's more aspirational, less limiting, and less tethered to the drone. And I think it opens up the whole network, which is what we're doing. So yeah, it's exciting.
I just want to go back and touch on the patent real quick because I think being Amazon by 4 days is just a crazy stat. And I want to know what you think on how the outcome would have changed for your company if you hadn't beaten them.
Yeah, man, I mean, it's everything. I wouldn't be here today. I sold a business to move forward with this. It's funny that that you asked about that because I've been an entrepreneur for decades, as you guys said. Thank you. Uh, but I over my past career, I've always been an idea guy. One time I had an idea. If you think about your TV remote control, you think about the previous channel button you could press, right? And it goes back.
Yeah.
I had that. That was my idea, and I went to patent that, and Sony had beaten me by a month. And the reason I wanted to do that because I like to bet on football games, and
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah.
have a chain of that I could set up and go back and forth and watch different games before Red Zone. Back in the
Yeah.
old. So that I lost that by a month. I'm like, how random is that? That I have this idea and I move on it, and Sony just beat me. Then I had an idea one time for a medical device, and I went to file that, and General Motors had beat me by 3 months on that. So when I had this idea, I was like, man, I'm in a race here. I gotta run. I called my patent attorney. I just come home from a business trip to Chicago. I was on the road driving through all these rural roads here in Indiana, where I am, and
Hmm.
cornfields on both sides. And somebody was flying a drone, and it just caught my attention. And I started thinking, this was about the time where Jeff Bezos was talking about drone delivery for Amazon and all that. And I started thinking about if you're going to deliver all these things, it's a non-starter to drop them on the ground. You're right. You got to have this brand new arrive point. And I thought, okay, if you're going to build the next generation mailbox, what would you do? How would you make it amazing? So I started thinking of all these ideas, and my mind was just racing. By the time I got home, I literally had to run into my office, kind of debrief all these ideas. I was forgetting them as fast as I was thinking of them, and so I was like overflowing. And I called my patent attorney. It was a Friday. I said, "Hey, John, Monday morning I want to come in. I want to file this thing. Got this new idea. I don't want to do a patent search. I don't want to lose a minute. I don't want to do a provisional. We're going to jump in. I'll bring the abstract. We'll do it all." So I went and met him Monday morning. When I left his office, I was halfway home. He called me up. He said, "Hey, something I've never done before in my decades of patent work." He said, "I'd be willing to take a small equity position in your company for doing the patent work." I
Wow.
said, "John, here's the deal. This is a big idea. This isn't like you put 100 grand in on a restaurant, you get 30%. I'm
Hmm.
thinking shares versus percentages because of the scalability of what we're going to do." He goes, "I understand." He goes, "Come at me with what you think, and we'll do it." And I made him an offer, and he took it, and he did all our patent work, continues to work. He's our general counsel. He's on my board of directors. And been it grant so started with that first patent. So and the funny thing was, you wake up every day and you're thinking, and you wake up and you're excited. You're like, man, I got this biggest opportunity in the world of this patent. And then the next day
Yeah.
you wake up and you say, what are the odds of me, Dan O'Toole beating Amazon, right? So I would oscillate, and for
Yeah.
3 years I didn't know if I was going to get the patent or not. And then it took 3 years, and then my attorney John there called me and goes, "Hey, I got some bad news." I go, "What is it?" He goes, "You're going to have to write a check because your patent got awarded." So, so that was it. So then I was
Wow.
off to the races. Sold a company to monetize the development of this. And, it's been a hell of a journey. I wouldn't trade 1 minute of it. Good, bad, ugly. Built a big investor community of 5,000 people before we went public. Tapping the public market. It was always my aspiration from when I was a kid to be a CEO and take a company public.
Yeah.
Something I always wanted to do. Kind of a nerdy thing, but to me, I always, I always watched Warren Buffett and others when I was a
Hmm.
kid. There were, people I looked up to, and to have an idea worthy of being public, and then to actually execute on that, it's like winning the lottery 10,000 times over. And I wouldn't trade one thing about being the CEO of a public company I think it would be hypocritical, frankly. You work so hard to get here. You're so happy to be here. And then to bitch or complain about one little thing is disingenuous. So I take it all. I love it all. I take ownership of everything we're doing here every day. We built this huge investor community. I put my number out that I've had for 35 years to every one of our investors. I get calls from all over the world every week. And I've got, we had 5,000 investors come in, and I have most of them in my phone Rolodex. And I talk to them regularly. They're the most supportive people. And what I found is it's really kind of funny because people always say, I can't believe you give your number out. Why would you do that? You're
Yeah.
setting it's not that way at all. I would say people are so, what's the word I'm trying to think of? They don't just pick up the phone willy nilly and call you. They think about it and they call you if they have something to, and I say, hey, suggestions, comments, critiques, bring it all. I want to own everything. If we have bad news, I want to be the one telling it to you. I don't want you hearing it on the street. I don't want to hide from it. Anybody can be around to tell the good stuff, right? That's always the fun stuff. But being there when something's bad and you want to report it, you want to look your guys in the eye and say, hey, I'm not happy to tell you guys this, but I want to share it with you because you invested in me as much as this company, and I'm just so proud of the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to first hit on the fact that you guys were first. I was thinking about Talladega Nights and saying, like, if you're not first, you're last. I think
say that a lot.
it has no better place than in the patent world. And I just kind of put that together because, like, even if you're second, you might as well be last.
Yeah.
And I think the Amazon one's a great
And that's a cool
example of
thing. And that's the cool thing about our patent system here. It's first to file. So no matter how much money you have, Amazon literally the way that we know we beat them by 4 days, they accelerated their patent. They did pay an acceleration fee to get expedited. But at the end of the day, when my patent was evaluated, even though they accelerated ahead of me, I was first to file by 4 days. So I ended up not, voiding out their invalidating their patent because mine was first to file. So yeah, you're exactly right. There's no second place. Yeah, it's downstairs in the women's bathroom like Top Gun, right? Alternate trophy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like all or nothing, and it's like
it's changed my life. I would not be here. All our investors wouldn't be in this. We went out and rang the bell on July 3rd of this year in New York at the Nasdaq. We had 400 people came out. It was one of the biggest bell ringing ceremonies I've ever had at the Nasdaq. We kind of broke the Nasdaq. It was kind of fun. We actually talked to the Guinness Book of World Records about setting the record of doing that. But there was so much involved with that. We just didn't have the time to do it. But I think Arrive AI would be the record holder had we had the time to do that. So that's kind of cool.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's crazy. And one of the biggest questions, like, our audience is a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, founders, and inventors. So
Sure.
many people wonder in this space, how do you get investors? And having 5,000 is crazy, especially like before going public. How did you get so many investors in those early stages?
Man, there's you got me thinking about a lot of things there. I mean, one thing I would say as a kind of an underlying premise is you have to think big to get big. And what I mean by that is, I mentioned a little bit ago when my attorney said I'd work for some equity,
Yeah.
I thought about this from day one as one of the largest opportunities in the world. If people, when you have an idea, a lot of people are really free and easy with giving equity out in lieu of cash. And what happens is they find themselves diluted out of their position. The cool thing about where I specifically am, I own 72% of my company, in which, we did a peer evaluation of
You
other
own 72% right now of Arrive AI?
I do.
Oh my gosh. Because online I looked it up, it said 10%, and I was like, "Oh, wow, he gave a lot away."
No,
72%. Wow.
22%. And, the closest peer CEO on the Nasdaq owns 27% of his company. So, yeah, some of it's luck, right? You got to be lucky. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But I would say the secret is the way you start has a lot to do with the way you finish. And if you go into it, everything from your valuation to how you raise capital to, giving the shares away and allocating those, I've always believed that your equity in your company is your capital of development. And if you take the short money and throw shares here and there and everywhere, you're going to end up diluted out on the side of the road, dead in the water. You're doing a disservice to everybody you took one dime from, your company, your family, yourself. For the first 6.5 years, I funded this company all by myself because I wanted it to be where it was investable in the eyes of others.
Mm-hmm.
That was pivotal for me. So that's really, I credit that as much as anything with being where we are. But when we started out, going the VC route was something everybody thinks that's the easy route. Go to VC, so I wrote you a big check and all this, but those guys own your soul.
Yep.
They're
I was
gonna
going to
beat your
say that. Yeah.
You're gonna beat your valuation down to nothing. They're gonna control you. Nobody's a better visionary for your own idea than you are. Who are, whatever your idea is, you've got the playbook better than anybody. Don't diminish that. I would say, go with your instincts, go with what you got here. One of the things I say a lot, Donald Trump, right? Guy built a $10 billion enterprise.
Yeah.
He does a lot of tweets that are questionable, right? And I'm sure he's got everybody, his family and everybody saying, hey, don't do this and that. But then at the end of the day, he's saying to himself, you know what? My instincts built me this $10 billion enterprise. I got to put some faith in myself too, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I say to myself. Everybody has an opinion, but to get where we've gotten is very rare air. There's only 39 public companies in the state of Indiana, and we're one of them. And
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, well, when you get, it's one of the things I'm proud of. So I know all
Yeah,
these little thoughts, but you gotta think big to get big. It's all a matter of how you start to how you finish. We crowdfunded when we started doing the crowdfunding. We didn't go the VC route, which was really fortunate because 90% of the companies that went the VC route in the same time frame that we crowdfunded are no longer in business. There's a big upside downness in the market, and the preferred stack, all they lost their funding and all that. I call us the we the people story. Everybody in my company, every shareholder has the same shares I do, common shares with voting rights. I didn't create any preferred shares. We did 3 different crowdfunding. First one was on wefunder.com. Second one was on startengine.com. And the third one was on pickmecrowdfunding.com. And, there's a lot of different things that are good and bad out there. When we did our first raise on WeFunder, we earned the distinction of being the highest valuation pre-revenue company to ever successfully crowdfund in the history of crowdfunding. And I think that's still true today. I'm really proud of that. I think that shows the market acceptance of what we're doing. But when we went back we did have a successive raise there. When we went back to do our second raise, we naturally went to them first. And they wanted us to create a preferred, share raise, and the first raise was common. And I said to him, so you're asking me to undervalue every shareholder that's your customer and our investor that took the biggest risk ahead of even these new class of guys that would be. You're asking me to devalue or undervalue them and put somebody ahead. I'm not going to do it. So we didn't raise there. Then we went to Start Engine, but as we did the crowd, and so I know I'm going off on a tangent here. I'll finish that. So the crowdfunding thing, I always said when we're done with Arrive Drone Deck, the next business I was going to do, I was going to start a crowdfunding platform because nobody did it right. Nobody does it with the spirit. They don't realize that they have 2 customers. They have the raising company, which would be us, and then every investor in our company is their customer too. And they just don't understand customer service. But then I found pickmecrowdfunding.com, Chandler and his brother Braden, actually. And these guys run the company the same way I would. Very attentive, agile, just very caring. The same way I gave my phone number out, I could call these guys 24 hours a day. And so I said, thank you, Chandler, because I don't have to do a crowdfunding business now because you're doing it the right way. But so that was awesome. But the funny thing is when we got to Wall Street, and getting ready to go public and go through all the different things that you do to do that. The funny thing was, 5 years earlier, when we were a crowdfunding company talking to the public markets, they really laughed at the idea of, crowdfunded companies and, the retail investor and all that. But when you fast forward over that 5 year period, you had the Wall Street bets, Roaring Kitty, GameStop,
Yeah.
retail investor stickiness, all that. And then we show up at Wall Street with 5,000 retail investors, with all the validation that we had. All of a sudden, we were celebrated. Every investment banker wanted to deal with us.
Hmm.
You guys, all these accolades, and it was kind of fun because those are the same guys that were telling us, you guys are crazy. But anyway, so we got there. We're on the market now. The stock price is oscillated. It's not where I want it to be. I want to have $1 billion valuation in
Hmm.
2026. That's what I'm working toward every day. But
That would be awesome.
you can't control the market. That's what I found out.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're gonna execute. We're gonna blow it up, and people are gonna say, "Hey, wow, glad I was with you."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And you guys are still doing awesome. I think your valuation is like it speaks volumes, especially for how long you guys were pre-revenue. Like when did you first see revenue? How long were you pre-revenue? How'd you survive through those times?
Well, that's the thing. That's really a hard feat, man. Essentially, I've been doing this since 2014. When really formed the company in 2020 officially.
Hmm.
So, for the last 5 years, we just had our first revenue in Q3 of this year. So, to sustain the valuation that we have, the market obviously gives us a lot of credit, and I appreciate that. And
Hmm.
I want to prove to the market that this is the best investment they've ever made, and that's what we're hell bent on every single day, man.
That's
I
awesome.
find I find it interesting because when you were talking earlier about um, you were relieved when you didn't need to create the new crowdfunding platform. It kind of feels like there's almost like a responsibility that like when you come up with an idea, you're the one that needs to do it. Has that always been how you felt when you come with a new idea? You feel like you're the guy that needs to bring it into the world.
Well, when I have an idea, I'm the captain of that idea, and I don't just
Yeah.
like at Arrive AI right now. I'm not an ego guy. Someday somebody else will run this company, but it's not today. I am the guy to run it right now because I know the vision of all the IP that we have, all the ideas. I want to make sure everything's implemented and executed. But at someday when the time is right, somebody else will be they'll carry the baton forward. I do come up with a lot of ideas, and every time I do, I write it down. My goal at one point was to do every idea before I died. I've kind of given up on that because I've have over 200 ideas. A lot of them have been done by others, and
Hmm.
it's pretty interesting to see how they played out. And it's always I'm really proud of the fact that I've had so many great ideas. I've had some huge ideas. I've been very successful in my life. And I'm very blessed. I didn't come from money or anything like that, but if you throw enough shit at the wall, something's going to stick.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
there's always the people that did it, and then there's the other guys that say, "Man, I had that same idea. I wish I would have done it." Like you
Oh,
said, if you're not first,
Yeah.
you're last. And to
yeah.
me, that's the part of the execution that I do have that kind of drive to see it through. And the other thing is, I want to help other entrepreneurs. There's a club, I say a club of entrepreneurs where you always love to share stories,
Hmm.
mentor, help, and so the crowdfunding thing simply is, I want to make everybody better around me. And if I'm doing business with pick me crowdfunding, and I know something that is going to be great for us, it's going to be great for their other customers too. I want to share that and help them implement that so everybody can be the best they can be.
Yeah.
What's the trick in coming up with new ideas? Or do you think you're just more observant than the average person, or do you have any practical like tips for somebody that wants to come up with the next big idea?
It's a good
You,
question.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a very creative guy, and I always ask why.
Hmm.
Why is something that way? Why isn't it this way? And then I start
Hmm.
thinking about if I were going to redo that, how would I do it to make it better? And then the other thing I always say is necessity is the mother of invention, right? You could be doing the weirdest thing in the world that nobody else even thinks about, but because you're doing it, you're seeing things that aren't present to help make it as great as it can be. So then you think about, what if I did this? That would really make this happen so much better. And then follow through with it. Don't just have that as a passing idea. I think when one person has an idea, 10 people always get the same idea. I think it's God's way of making sure things happen. And that's
Hmm.
evidenced by the fact that, I had this idea. I beat Amazon by 4 days. But what I didn't say was I also beat the Postal Service by 2 weeks. I beat another company by 22 days and several others along the way. But, so I'm lucky I realized I was in that race and I executed, or I'd just be another guy talking about, hey, that was my idea. And look at, what's happening out there. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like reinventing the wheel in a way, because I'm sure millions looked at mailboxes and were like, "Oh, it's just a mailbox," and no other idea possibly could have crossed their mind. They're just like, "Oh, it's a mailbox. It's never going to change. It's always going to be a mailbox." I
Hmm.
bet it was very limited the people who saw opportunities there, and that's crazy that you did.
It's so true. Even some of the most sophisticated, trillion-dollar market cap companies iterating in this space are focused on their end solution. Nobody thought about the macro. Like, people
Yeah.
are getting so many packages and deliveries, food, whatever. Even if you're Walmart and you're thinking about how you deliver your product to Braden, you're not thinking about the fact that Braden might be getting 10 other deliveries over the next couple days or whatever, right? And so there's a lot of moving parts there that people just never thought about. And, that's what we've been thinking about. And we're using AI to streamline scheduling, route optimization, predictive cargo, capacities, reverse logistics. There's just so many elements out there that we're going to be providing that are going to really unlock all the value in this industry.
And whenever we say next year you're looking for $1 billion market cap, what are some steps you're going to take in 2026 to try and make that happen? Like, what's some maybe partnership or route that would actually lead to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, as a public company, forward-looking statements and things like that can't get into specifics,
Mm,
and I'm not trying to be coy or anything like that. Of course, we'd love to work with all the major household names that everybody knows are iterating in this space, but, beyond that, we're standing up or quarterbacking our own delivery ecosystems. One of the things is, not everybody knows about Arrive AI. In fact, the majority of the people don't know about Arrive AI. So how do you counter that? You go out and you quarterback your own ecosystems. We got drone companies from all over the world reaching out to us right now. Robotic companies from all over the
hmm.
world are reaching out to us. And so what we're doing is we're starting to stand up our own delivery ecosystems where, say, we'll go into a hospital, we'll set up arrive points, and then we'll have robots that are automated that can go back and forth and do the work of all the humans there. So now the humans could be redeployed to give better patient care. So we're unlocking a lot of value that way. We think that doing those kind of things. We're looking at standing up a new delivery use case in Fishers, Indiana, which is where we're based, to a commercial park there, and we're getting vendor buy-in right now. We're working with drones and robots to set that up. Things like that are going to really accelerate us. We're also
Hmm.
looking at M&A. When you're a public company, your stock is your currency. Of course,
Hmm.
our price is low, so that's a little bit of a deterrent. But I'm an aggressive guy. I'm a big risk taker. You got to think big to get big. You got to take
Yeah.
risks. To accelerate what you're doing. Obviously, you want to grow organically. We're taking huge steps in that regard. In the last 3 months, we went from 6 W-2 employees to 46. Moved into a new headquarters. We'll probably have 200 people next year on the team. But in addition to that, what if you could accelerate by bolting on, strategic revenue and, vertical integrations that would be complementary to what we're doing. So we're
Yeah.
we're looking at a lot of deals out there right now. If any of your viewers or subscribers have any deal they want to put in front of us, we're the We the People story. We evaluate everything. We're not too big or too ego to say we're not going to listen to you. We listen to all of our investors. We have an initiative called From Within. If you're an investor in Arrive AI, we know who you are, where you live, and what you do. If we have an opportunity, we want to look from within first. We want to reward people that rewarded us, with an investment.
Mm-hmm.
We're very loyal to that, and so we have a great relationship throughout our whole investor community, and I couldn't be more proud of how we're building this company. One of the things I know I'm rambling here, but one of the things I say to myself every day when I go to work is, I want to be the boss that I want to work for. I want this to be the company that I would want to work for, and I want this to be the company that I would want to invest in. So if I can do those three things every day, we're doing so much right, and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
be very successful.
This is so
Wow.
random, but I feel like you'd play a really good Liam Neeson, like one of his roles, because you said, "We know who you are, where you live, and what you do."
Yeah,
It sounded exactly like him. I got scared.
yeah. Watch out, man. No,
It's
I
crazy.
love Liam. That's a big compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
was
no,
listening though. I just needed to say that.
No, thanks, man.
no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. The We the People company. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then kind of going back to being CEO of such a large company, it is public. I know that you mentioned that, like, you're not allowed to like say certain things. I don't know if you get asked this, but what does that feel like to have your mouth dictate like a stock price? Like like every word you say could potentially impact your investors' pockets. Like how do you navigate that throughout your life, and what is that like? Because I have no idea. I just say whatever, but I'm
Mhm.
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of thinking that has to go on, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I'd love to say to get the stock price up, right? But
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't want to. Transparency, communication. Those are our core values. My promise to myself is to always get out ahead of anybody else saying something. I don't care what if it's good, bad, whatever. I want you to
Hmm.
hear it here first. I think that's the integrity of investing in this company. And what's funny is we had a lawsuit against us about 2 years ago, and I knew it was going to be served on us, but it was never filed with the court. And in my angst to be out ahead of things, I had our attorney call the other side and say, "Hey, will you please file this lawsuit so we can share it with our investors? We want to be out there." So they filed it, and then I went out and put it on a post and shared it with everyone. And that was the post we had the most comments ever on, and
Wow.
100% of them were all positive. And so I take a lot of pride in that because I think people undervalue honesty and how people perceive that. If you come out and you're trying to cover everything up and always tell good news, people can see through that.
Yeah.
We're all human. We're all dealing with something all the time. But I can tell you this: anything that happens negatively, it's nobody has a wish for that to happen, right? We're all trying to
Yeah.
make good things happen every day. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, but we're doing everything we can. I think at the end of the day, we're going to be great. I knock on wood. I hope our shares are never any lower than they are today. And I think we're the next Google. I think we have one of the largest market opportunities in the world. The U.S. has our TAM is 170 million addresses. That grows by 4,000 new addresses every day. 91% of all deliveries are 5 pounds or less, which makes them perfect for autonomous delivery and pickup. Every day in the US, there's 1.7 million packages stolen. If you have this whole new
Wow.
ecosystem of autonomous delivery, you're going to have a whole new theft industry of autonomous delivery theft. So the way you counter that is through Arrive AI. Since COVID, UPS today will in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is kind of a middle market city, will deliver to 8,000 more unique locations in Fort Wayne, Indiana than they did before COVID. So if you extrapolate that across the whole country, across every carrier, you can see the huge demand on last mile logistics. And how do you solve that through autonomy? And that's where we come in.
No, definitely. And as we're talking big picture here, long term, do you see you guys as more of a hardware company, or a software company? Where's the real value gonna come for you guys and investors?
Yeah, we in our 5-year plan is to have 100,000 units out. Half of our revenue is going to be through AI insights. The other half will be through recurring revenue. You don't need to buy one of our ride points; you subscribe to it,
Mhm.
and then we're looking for a 20x in our share price. So that's our 5-year plan that we're building milestones to every day right now. So I'd say an AI first company. There's so many opportunities. One of the things I say every day is there's more things we don't know about what we're going to do than we do know. When you are the gateway to every home and business throughout the world with great connectivity, and you've got that at your fingertips. The majority of cases have yet to be thought of. We could do traffic counting, shot spotter, facial recognition for people, facial recognition for pets, heated and cooled cargo area, UV protecting packages.
Mhm.
Uh, we have an emergency light feature. If you need, emergency services, police, fire, or ambulance, you trigger it on your app. It sends an automated dispatch out. At that same time, your arrive point strobes either red for fire, red and white for ambulance, or red and blue for police. So first responders can identify rapidly where you are. What if you wanted to set up your arrive point as a sentinel around your house? You can
Mhm.
set up an activity alert, say from midnight to 6 a.m. Any activity around your arrive point could turn on all your exterior floodlights on your house. Now it becomes a deterrent. When your ring cameras goes off and it's looking out, what's looking back? That could be us. We could be part of that ecosystem. So there's just a ton of things that we're thinking about every day
Yeah.
and how we implement these advertising, right? Targeted ads, just, a marketplace for shipping. You don't have to go to the UPS store anymore. Get on your app. We can dimensionally measure and weigh items right inside the arrive point. That's all in our patents. So you can put something in there. You don't have to put a label on it. You don't have to find a receipt to return something. You can pull up your last purchases. They're all archived and get your credit seamlessly. So there's all kinds of things like this that we're thinking about and implementing. So it's probably more of a software company
Okay.
first, AI, and then the hardware is facilitating that.
Gotcha.
As far as like the tech side goes, I'm really interested in how it actually works. Like specifically, when a drone pulls up with a package, how does it know? Like, how does it communicate with that drone if it is, or is it just a sensor? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, yeah, we have our own API that we've developed, and mainly cellular at this point, but it could be on broadband as well. Cellular gives us the best s- uh, coverage, consistent coverage. But when a drone pulls up or when a robot pulls up, it sends an API call to the arrive point, and then it validates that it's the right robot, the right drone delivering the right product to the right arrive point. And then once that electronic handshake happens, the arrive point opens up to accept it, and it's deposited, and then once the door on the arrive point is secured, then the either the drone or the robot will take off. But it's all videotaped, chain of custody while that transaction happens.
Wow.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah.
then you get a notification. You're not gonna if you're waiting for a computer or an iPhone or something, you don't have to take a day off work, right? We could do that.
Mhm.
We're looking to get to a point where certified mail can be electronically accepted by you, with that chain of custody, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So, with the subscription based model, is that set up so it's like, is it like long term subscription, like, or just like for a one time use? Like, say I have a package coming and
Mm,
I want it to be
yeah.
shipped there. Then
Well,
do I?
if you had it at your house, it's kind of like an Amazon Prime or something, probably an annual subscription,
Okay.
something like
Okay.
that. You know, with the market size we have in the U.S. here, with just 1% of the market, that represents $3.5 billion in revenue just on the subscription side to us. By contrast or by comparison, Amazon Prime has a 55% market share. So 1% is 3.5 billion. If we could get to the same market share that they have, we'd probably be the largest company in the world. So it's a big opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's
definitely. And speaking of opportunity, do you see more on the commercial side or residential side as we're talking here?
Well, the market's comprised probably 80% residential, 20% commercial. The first
Mhm.
movers are, the commercial side, obviously
Mhm.
medical and high
Yeah.
value things like that. But the thing really that we're focused on is, economy of scale happens with route density. And because 91% of all deliveries are 5 pounds or less, that transcends every use case. So the key is really going into zip codes and just, building that density. It doesn't matter what you're delivering to whom. If you go in there and just, saturate that,
Yeah.
that's where the thing really kicks up.
Okay. Well, let's talk about hospitals real quick because that's a big part of your guys' website right now. I think you're already in a hospital or two. I'm not quite sure. Tell us like what that is about.
Yeah, healthcare is high valued items, high value, high priority, all those kind of things. And then you're dealing with, stressed resources, right? Sometimes they rely on volunteers, or you have nurses, which are really high, expensive,
Yeah.
labor to be moving things. And we can all think about when you're in the hospital. Sometime you're there with somebody and they're trying to ring the bell and nobody come, it takes forever. So what if you could redeploy those resources to the care of the people, while allowing all these lab samples to happen autonomously and things like that. So like an example, Hancock Health in Greenfield, Indiana is a location that we're working. And so one of the things they do, and I think this is typical across healthcare, is they'll wait for multiple lab samples to accumulate, and then somebody will make one trip with multiple lab samples. And what that does is, you're still taking that person out of the equation to help, but you're also not having those done in real time, and so it's
Mhm.
causing almost like a bottleneck. So what we've seen is we've been able to, through our autonomous delivery with robots to arrive points, what we've seen is more real time samples happening, streamlining the whole process, no bottlenecks. It's actually giving a bigger ROI to the hospitals and better patient care on top of it. So it's really unlocking a lot of value, and we're seeing a lot of interest in the healthcare space for those reasons.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, that's awesome.
I was gonna ask a question earlier about your views on the new FAA regulations. Do you believe that? Do you, I was reading about like Part 108 or whatever. They're
Yeah.
trying. I think that's probably a necessity for your business, right? Because there's a lot of weird laws there. Like, what do you want to see in those changes? I guess.
Yeah, we're not the drone, we're not the robot, right? But we do have a substantial interest in seeing autonomy, be uplifted, and we think that Part 108 is a big thing. It's going to allow, overflight of humans, beyond visual line of sight, all these things that are really kind of holding back the industry right
Yeah.
now. In fact, the
Yeah.
rest of the world is actually moving faster than the U.S. The thing that I take solace in is the highest level of cautionary travel has already happened, and that's carrying humans on an airplane, right? So that's already happening at huge scale. Safety is second to none. So really, they're just formulating the highways in the sky for drones and, anti-conflict and things like that. From, drones are going to be flying at 400 feet. Planes are at 40,000. So, but it's definitely happening. If you pull up your iPhone right now and you say, "Hey Siri, show me all the planes in the sky right now," you wouldn't even see the U.S. It's all covered by planes everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
drones are going to be second nature. People say, "Oh, I don't want a drone flying over," but the reality is, Christiansburg, Virginia, Google Wing has a use case going out there. It's oversubscribed. Yeah, you have to be on a waiting list to join it. Virginia Tech did a survey and a study to find out how widely accepted it was. I had like a 95% acceptance. People were really happy with it. I always say, free government money doesn't even have a 95% approval rate. So I think it bodes well for the industry. I think some big things are happening right now. I've just seen, Trump has just come up with a new bill called Unleashing America's Drone Dominance. It's all about drone delivery and opening up the skies, and that's great for us because that's really where we kick in, is when autonomy kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what are they worried about, Like, with the drone, like
Well, a lot of it's security, I think, is like because they have to have cameras and sensors to see like where they are.
yeah,
So I think a lot of people like with residences, at least in the past, it's been like you can't fly near, private homes or near windows and all that
right,
because of private space. Right,
right,
Dan?
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, they say if you outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. That's the saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the people that are illicit, that you don't want flying a drone, they already have drones and they're already doing whatever they're doing. The commercial companies like Google, Walmart, all these other guys out there, they're not out, doing the illicit
keeping
things. They're
calm.
trying to,
Yeah,
I,
Yeah.
I say better, faster, fresher, cheaper, greener, safer. Those are all elements that are going to be delivered through drones and robots to an arrive point. We're a spoiled consumer. Everybody wants those things in that fashion, right? And that's what we're going to deliver.
Yeah, and also people spend money quicker when the product can get to them quicker. So we're going to see a lot more spending as well as the drone laws become greater, um, like allowing more drones. Because
Right.
if I see on my phone, oh, I can get my package in an hour as opposed to a day. Now I'm more likely to buy that item or buy more items that I need right then because it's
hmm
quick. So it's
yeah,
going to be double edged.
yeah, for sure. I have a question about the actual about Arrive AI, um, in the box itself. So
Yep.
it heats up, right?
Heated or cooled. Yep.
Like, how hot are we talking? Like, could I make a pizza in it? Maybe, like,
Yeah.
if I delivered a
Yeah.
frozen pizza, could it cook it?
No, it can't cook it. I came up with this phrase: we don't attain a temperature, we maintain a temperature. We're
Mm,
not going to attain a baking, 200 degrees or 350. But if it comes and it's hot, we're going to keep it warm for you, right?
gotcha.
If
Yeah.
if you
Okay.
have something cool come, we're going to keep it cool. Climate assist more than baking or freezing, those kind of things.
Yeah, that makes it
Yeah,
definitely
that makes
eliminates some liabilities for sure. Probably. I kind of want to get your views with you being the CEO of an AI company. I want to get your views about AI overall and where it's headed and how you feel about it. Do you have any concerns about it?
Well, first thing I want to make is the distinction between an LLM, a large language model, right? Everybody thinks that when you say AI, it's always Chat GPT or OpenAI, but the reality is there's all kinds of AI not only happening today, but things have been going on for quite a while, frankly. You know, um, am I afraid of it? I would say no. I'd say that, we are a spoiled consumer. We are the ones that are driving all this. And nobody wants to go back, you know, I grew up in the age where you didn't have cell phones, and I remember a lot of times I'd come home late at night. My mom would be sitting in the living room with the lights out waiting for me to come home. She couldn't even call and check on me or anything. Right.
Hmm.
So, this is a progression of our society, where things are quickening. And you think back just a couple of years ago when you didn't have Chat GPT or any of these other things, and you think about how you've come to rely on AI in your daily life. If you're not doing that, you're the one that's hurting yourself. You have to adapt. You have to bring in all these new technologies that are available, or you're going to be left behind. Not only here in this country, but you as a person, right? So AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. I don't see it being. I think if anybody's going to be the demise of our culture, it's going to be ourselves. And I don't think that manifests through AI. I think that's somebody pressing a button and blowing somebody up or something like that. But I don't think it's going to come from AI. Yeah, AI is a great tool. It's something that can make quality of life so much greater. Create time. Time is our greatest. I don't care how much money you have, you can't buy time. Some of the richest
Mhm.
guys in the world died. You look at, Apple, right? So Steve Jobs. So, the guy had all the money in the world and he still passed away. So, time is everything. Anything we could do to leverage, technology to get back more time, make things more efficient, quicker,
Mhm.
whatever. Yeah, that's what we need to be doing. That's why it's happening.
Mm.
And as far as, I know we talked about the patent and how you got there first. It makes it very difficult for other companies to try and get in the same space. But that said, do you have any competitors or is there any ability for companies to get close? Are there any trying?
One of the things we use the term co-opetition. People say, "Hey, who's your competition?" And it's kind of it's a little uh, to say you don't have any competition is a
Mhm.
little hokey, right?
Yeah.
But we do have exclusivity through our patents. We've got a very robust, comprehensive patent portfolio. It's a first position, so in that regard, we are very limiting to the competition. But we want to work with everybody. That's what makes our product great. If Google had our patents and was rolling them out, there'd be almost an inherent conflict because would Amazon want to use a Google mailbox, right?
Mm.
Right? But with us, a third party company that's not, we don't, we're not the drone, we're the drone deck,
Mhm.
right? We're not the robot. We're not competing in the retail space, right? We're platform agnostic, universal, welcoming to all shippers and deliverers, and that we embrace everybody. We want the more use that happens on our arrive points by the more vendors and shippers and deliverers. That's great for us, right? We don't want to be limiting in any way that takes away from the user experience. We want the users of Arrive Points to celebrate the fact that, man, I can get my mail here. I can get, DoorDash, Uber Eats. I can get Walmart, Google, Amazon, whatever. And that's what we're
Mhm.
holding up.
Okay, I have a question. Let's say I have an arrive point at my residential single family home and I want DoorDash and I order DoorDash and I say put it in the arrive point. How do without you guys being configured with DoorDash, can you do it or does it have to be a 2 point system? Like I have to have it and DoorDash also has to know it and like have it like integrated.
No, it's all integrated. And so here's a couple things. One is we are not integrated with DoorDash right now. We want to be. If DoorDash is watching, call us up. We'll get your API so you can hook in. But the other thing is I want the standard or the ergonomics of our product to be so simple that somebody walking up to it for the first time that doesn't even know what it is can figure it out. That's the level of how we do a lot of testing. We've got human principal PhDs on our staff that bless you that kind of track all of our deployments. We have studies going. We videotape interactions. We have surveys, focus groups, all that, and that's the standard we want to set. But ultimately, when you come up, we don't want there to be any delay. We want you to come up and be able to have immediate access. If our user ordered DoorDash, that's going to be integrated in some fashion where when the driver comes up, the door can almost open just for him right upon arrival.
Okay, so it's almost like if there's nothing already in there, then you can just open it, and then it's locked for good. They won't
Yeah,
need to do anything?
yeah. In fact, an example of that would be, you know, in today's world, there's a ton of fraud going on out there, right? Checks are
Yeah.
being stolen. The U.S. Postal Services has so much fraud with people stealing checks. It's
Mhm.
one of the biggest problems out there right now. So the mailbox isn't secure. So what if in the culmination with the arrive point, we have the mailbox built in. What if a typical mail courier might have 300 addresses? So you say your phone is a fob or some proximity sensor that you could wear. We would encrypt that for that specific carrier. He walks up to a mailbox, doesn't have to do anything, doesn't even realize it's locked, but it is. goes up, pulls the door, puts the items in, closes it. When he gets out of proximity, it locks behind him. So we have all the reporting of his, chain of custody, closings, openings, what he put in, perhaps all those things. And say he gets fired in the middle of the day, intraday, we could shut off his credentials and restrict him from access to any more mailboxes. So that's the level of security that we're talking about.
Wow. Okay.
Amazing. I don't even know. I don't even know how that's even possible. It's crazy. Pretty insane. What was the biggest like technical challenge with all of this?
There's always, even though we're not, doing rocket science, you're still putting together a new technology that you want to be agnostic to all users, right? So one of
Yeah.
the big challenges is everybody has their own operating systems, and we're trying to integrate with ours. So we're offering our API to vendor partners out there, and then just getting that to integrate is always a challenge. So the thing about what I always say is we're in an industry where you're judged by your failures, not your
Mm,
successes, right? The default, people always expect it to work every time, right? And so
yeah.
our product has to work every time, not most of the time. And so that,
Mm.
when you're dealing with things like, broadband or cellular connectivity, you're interacting with other, platforms and things like that. There's always some bumpiness as you're, kind of getting integrated into the market. So those have been
Hmm.
some of the challenges. And frankly, that's one of the reasons we're not out there we haven't scaled yet. And that is because right now, every unit we put out is obsolete going out the door. And what I mean by that is we are for us, the ROI on every deployment is the learnings. We want this thing to be so intuitive, so bulletproof in how it works, and just right on point every single time. We don't want to invest in thousands or hundreds of thousands of units that we know are going to be rapidly changing. The way we're building, we're big students of Elon Musk and Tesla. Our philosophy is the best part is no part. Everything that we're building is modular. We're going to be able to hot swap everything in the field in
Mm,
30
yeah.
seconds. We've talked to UPS about the opportunity to, obviously we're going to be self-diagnosing all the issues. We're going to be ahead of, you having to call us. We're going to know something's wrong, but we shoot a part out there. The UPS driver can actually unplug the existing module, put the new one in, and then UPS would ship that back to our refurb base so we can, see if that's something we're going to be able to salvage or we're going to dispose of. So that's how we're thinking about things.
Yeah, no, that's a great system. Just having the delivery person be able to fix it rather than you have to fix it. That's awesome.
Yeah, think of what that does. I mean, UPS touches every address, in
Yeah.
the world, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a great natural network for us to tap
Mhm.
into.
Yeah. What about from a customer service standpoint? I know you said like you'll be able to know if there's a problem before the consumer does, but let's say I can't open my Arrive AI. Is there going to be a almost like a call service where I could be like, "Hey, like I can't get this open. I need to," and then they need to verify my identity, and I give them a code or something, and then they can just open it, or because I can see some issues if like there can't be like remote opening capabilities, and like someone's like really important thing is just stuck in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are going to try to resolve 90% of every maintenance call over the phone or over
Mhm.
remotely, right? That's just something that you want to do from a economic standpoint. The reality is we own every unit ourselves. All these are capitalized on our balance sheet. So we have an inherent interest in making them for longevity
Mm.
and for low maintenance, right?
Yeah,
But obviously the customer is always first, and if somebody has a situation, we want to be able to, give attention to that immediately. And there'll always be a support line to be able to take care of those things, immediately.
that's good. Yeah, because some companies like don't even have customer service, which like in my mind is crazy. Let's talk about Instagram for 2 seconds. Instagram,
Oh
one of the
man.
biggest companies in the world, they don't have oh shit, I just punched this.
Easy.
They don't even have like no customer service. You cannot get in touch with Instagram at all, which is crazy to me. How is that
Yeah.
even possible?
It's
You
pretty
know?
Hey, you
bad.
know what? That goes back to what I said. I always want to be the company I would want to invest in. I put myself in the shoes of every customer. If I'm trying to call a company right now, I'm a busy guy. I want to get it off my plate, whatever it is. If I call, you, Oliver, and you don't answer the phone, I'm not going to leave you a message. I'm going to hang up. I'm going to turn around and call Braden, and I
Yeah.
want to get it dealt with right now.
Mhm.
If you wanted to talk to Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, forget about it. You're never going to talk to that guy. But if you just try to call somebody at Meta at any level, an operator, you can't even, there's not even a number to reach
Yeah.
somebody. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's not who we are. I always said I want this to be the company I would want to invest in. We're going to run this the way that, you talk to a human. Every time you call our company, you talk to a human right now.
That's
And
awesome.
that's how we do it.
I love that. That's my favorite thing of what you said this whole time, and we've said a lot of great things.
I'm not going to say anything else. I'm done. Drop the mic, man.
Well, before we let you go, I want to sum it all up and ask you this question. For all the young entrepreneurs out there, what's one piece of advice what's the number one piece of advice that you would give our listeners out there?
Yeah, you know what? I have a lot of core values. If anybody saw the movie Air about the Nike story, I don't know if you guys have seen that or not.
No, I
You
haven't.
guys, I'll tell everybody to check that out. That's it's a very compelling story. But there's a lot of they have these Nike core values, principles that they started
Mhm.
when they had their company. I've got a lot of things like that myself that I live by. I'd say number one is persistence pays. You know, if it were easy, everybody'd be doing it. Nothing is easy. You get out of it what you put into it. And we need everybody in this world. We need entrepreneurs to start companies and run them, and we need people to work at them. So everybody has their place, and there no one's better than the other. But loyalty to me is everything. I always say, I never forget two people: the guy that helped me and the guy that fucked me, and I really believe that. Yeah, I'm so loyal to people that did anything for us. I don't care if one guy put $100 in my company, another guy put 1 million in. To me, the guy that put the 100 in, that might be worth more than the million that the guy put in. The million may not mean as much to him as the
Mhm.
$100 did. And, I don't take it lightly when somebody invests in this company. I feel like they're investing in me, and I put that on my shoulders. And I want to win more for anybody that invested than I do for myself. And, if you go through and you have that kind of a strategy for success, I don't think you can go wrong. If you're in it for the quick buck, or you want to flip dollars and leave a bunch of people hanging, you're not going to go too far. That's a karma thing. But
Mhm.
I just say that persistence pays. If you throw enough shit at the wall, something's going to stick. Don't forget where you came from. I've got 20 of those things that are really my core values, and
Mhm.
I always say too that recognizing opportunity. I always say by the time you thought about it, I did it, and what I mean by that is, be educated about what you're doing so that when those opportunities do arise, you can act on them. Don't, kind of go in with one foot. You jump in with both feet, jump in aggressively, and don't be afraid to fail. For me, I've taken a lot of risk. I've had a lot of failures. I would not trade one failure for not knowing what happened. To me, going through my whole career, being 80 years old or whatever, sitting in a cubicle working for somebody else, maxed out, thinking, what would have ever happened if I tried that? I want to leave it all out there on the court. I want to know what happened, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
trade it. So go for your dreams. You can get back up no matter what. It's never over.
Dude, I'm feeling so hyped right now after that. That's
Wow.
awesome. That's
Thanks,
great
man.
advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was great. You also have some insane stats, like with the company. I mean, like you were dropping so many stats about like almost breaking records and stuff. It's honestly insane, and it's like
Yeah.
I feel like this company's bound to just take off. I
Take
know it
off.
already has, but I just mean like it could be beyond every boundary
Mhm.
that anybody puts on it. So
Hey, one of my whisper goals to myself is in 5 years, we either get acquired by one of the biggest companies in the world or we are one of the biggest companies in the world. I really think that's
So sick.
achievable. That's what I'm trying to
yeah,
do every day. So
Yeah.
yeah, dude, I appreciate you guys finding us and reaching out, and thanks for tracking us over our history here.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me, and I value that. I'm really touched by that. I'm really humbled. And, I mentioned that we rang the bell out there July 3rd at the Nasdaq. We're going back July 13th of 26 to ring the bell, and everybody that was out there is already hitting me up saying, I want to be there with you. So I'm looking forward to 2.0 on
I'll
that.
go.
Yeah, come on. You got an invite. You got an invite. So
Let's go.
hit me up, and we'll get you on the list. Okay.
Will do. Awesome. And thank you so much for joining us today, making the time for us, especially on New Year's.
Hey man, you know what? This was a time where I knew I was going to be available, and I appreciate you guys being willing to jump on New Year's too. To everyone that's watching this out there, chase your dreams. I commend you guys for putting this out there. You guys are doing great work. People love to know how things happen, and I think it's a great forum to do that. So thanks.
Thank you. And yeah, it's listed on the Nasdaq ARAI, correct?
Yeah, ARAI. Let's see if I got my Arrive AI right there. So
Awesome.
Dang,
yeah,
that's clean.
we're at the intersection of AI and autonomy. So those are two of the hottest spots out there.
Yeah.
If you're looking for Clay, hit us up. My email is dan@arriveai.com. If you want to call me, my number's 317-694-7520. So that's not my burner phone. That's my real number. I try to take every call.
Awesome.